Please help me welcome to the DebX stage, Aundria Adams.
I was 11 when I tried to take my own life. I used the belt from my mother's purple robe. It smelled of Virginia Slim Lights, and wearing it felt like the perfect hug. The kind I didn't get much growing up. I was raised in a house of abuse and neglect. That kind of trauma seeps into you until you can't tell where the pain ends and you begin. I decided I must be unlovable. And that identity became part of me, like an invisible cloak tied around my throat, choking me from the inside. This thing I had never asked for felt impossible to remove. I felt like a wilted sunflower, desperate for a kiss of sunshine. I turned inward to cope, scratching myself raw, purging meals, punching holes through walls. I wandered the streets to get away. But even then, I clung to a spark of hope. You see, in these moments of self-reflection, I realized that when I looked beyond my four walls, my normal didn't apply. So, at 16, I moved out, determined to find purpose. At 18, I knew that if I wanted to change, I needed help. So, I started bartending, enrolled in college, and found a psychologist. Now, I had never been to a psychologist before, but I was willing to do whatever it took to change my life. And my mental health started to improve. The doctor even invited me into his inner circle of patients. Vacations, holidays, social events, all spent together like a big, happy family. And I was thrilled when he introduced me to my new mother, a fellow patient and licensed psychologist who spent time with me and bragged about what an amazing daughter I was. She told me how much the doctor loved me. Though unconventional, while on my healing journey, I had gained the loving family I had always dreamed of. Then something got uncomfortable. After sessions, goodbyes from my therapist turned into hugs, and later, friendly kisses on the lips. He blamed my discomfort on my intimacy issues. He started inviting me out alone because he needed to teach me what a real friendship looked like. But when his hands started lingering in places they did not belong, I couldn't explain it away anymore. I found the courage to confront him and end treatment. Twice a week for 6 years, I had spent on his couch, leading him around every corner of my psyche. My reality shattered. The family I had longed for, gone. The pain was unbearable, and I was left with a choice. Accept defeat or find the strength to move on. So I chose to move on. I packed up, moved across the country, started a business, a new chapter. Then the FBI called, informed me my former therapist was an unlicensed con man. My new mother, his co-conspirator. Both were arrested and sentenced to prison. The DA called him a victim machine. My identity had become a product of that machine. I'd survived again, but at what cost? By age 25, the strings of my identity cloak were pulled so tight against my throat, suffocating me with my self-perception of being a child abuse victim, a therapist abuse victim, and a cult indoctrination victim. That's a lot of trauma. And I know my story is extreme, but trauma isn't rare. According to the World Health Organization, 70% of the population will experience a traumatic event in their lifetime. 30% will experience 4 or more. That's 280 people watching this show right now. And let's talk about the word victim. Here's the definition: destroyed, wounded, collateral damage. Would you want to carry those words through life? I didn't. After their sentences were finalized and the courtroom emptied, I realized that I had a choice. I could wear my victim identity everywhere. I could blame my abusers for future failed relationships, feel powerless, possibly repeat old patterns of trusting manipulative people. Or I could choose not to let what happened to me dictate my future. So I acknowledged everything I'd been through, my strength, my growth, my survival, and I still saw my life as full of possibility. I didn't have to stay stuck in my past. The philosopher Alan Watts asked, "Do you see yourself as a victim of the world? Or do you see yourself as the world?" What I think he meant was, we're more than what happens to us. When we let go of our victim stories, we get to become something bigger, stronger, freer. The moment I stopped identifying as a victim and started to see myself as a human being who had some really challenging life lessons, I could do whatever I wanted. It was as if the strings around my neck unraveled and my victim cloak fell to the ground. I knew healing wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. And I came to understand something. On the other side of trauma, there's always a choice. And it begins with becoming self-aware. So I started asking myself hard questions like, is this mindset bringing me closer to who I want to become? Am I willing to give up on my vision to stay stuck in a painful loop? The answer was no. Today, when I look at my life, I see strength and joy. My life's not perfect, but it's healthy, and I love who I am. I started a thriving business. I wrote a book. I found a real therapist who taught me strong boundaries and healthy relationships. I'm an advocate for therapist abuse survivors. But most important, I created that loving family I always dreamed of. You see, we're not destined to be collateral damage from the victim machines of our pasts. We are limitless beings able to create new worlds. So when you leave today, I invite you to reflect on part of your identity that might be shaped by trauma. Is it possible that without even realizing it, you've been wearing a victim cloak? A mindset that once protected you, but now holds you back? If the answer is yes, then this is your moment to shift your awareness. Make a new choice. Step into something new. Who do you want to become? Believe it's possible. When I was in college, I was introduced to a poem that changed my life. It's called The Sunflower Sutra by Allen Ginsberg. Two beatnik poets are sitting beneath the shade of a rusted locomotive, admiring the sunset, surrounded by gnarled steel and metal scraps, when they spot a dying sunflower covered in soot and grime. One of the young men addresses the plant and he says, "Poor dead flower, when did you forget that you were a flower? When did you decide that you were a dirty old locomotive? You were never no locomotive, sunflower. You are a sunflower." I hope you see my presence today as proof that despite despair, there is still beauty, resilience, and limitless possibility within us all. And it begins with the choice to become self-aware. You are the potential for goodness and renewal in this world. So when 70% of you find yourselves on the other side of that soul-crushing experience, try to loosen your cloak and remember, we're not our skin of grime. We're not dread, bleak, dusty locomotives. We are golden sunflowers inside. Thank you.